Good Saturday morning, everybody. This is the weekend edition. I'm meteorologist Johnny Lively. Hope you guys are having a good weekend so far. I mean, it just kicked off, so here we are. It is currently 7:22 this morning. We see some showers and a couple little downpours, mainly along the coast. They were a little bit more excited or a little bit more active earlier this morning around 4 or 5. Kind of lost a little bit of their umph. But if we zoom out, you can still see lots of moisture, lots of showers and thunderstorms offshore. A lot of this is going to be moving into the Lake Jackson and El Campo region, really kind of the next couple of hours. That's where the coverage really looks to be the highest this morning into the early afternoon. Let me move my big head out of the way. You can see those storms kind of moving into the Lake Jackson region, but we're going to continue seeing that coverage increase this morning, but it's mainly not until this afternoon into the early evening time hours that we start seeing a little bit better coverage. Looking at the satellite and radar, you can see it wasn't too active last night. It wasn't until around 2, 3, 4 we start seeing more of that bubbling, the convection from the showers and thunderstorms, mainly in parts of San Antonio, but right across the Texas coastline, really active offshore. We've got that southerly flow, that onshore flow, so we're going to continue seeing the moisture and these storms not only today, but tomorrow to close out the weekend, and even as we get into our highest coverage days on Monday and Tuesday. Thanks for a sponsor of Tamco, showing us what's going on. Silsby Ford, if we can read this morning, showing us that the temperatures are pretty warm out there. What you feel this time of year as we start sneaking into more of the middle of July, middle to upper 70s for a lot of the region, but several areas already into the upper 70s already at the low to mid 80s down there towards the coast. Again, thanks for a sponsor of Silsby Ford. Get you one. Go check out their Facebook, by the way. They've got a lot of good lineups. Here we are with construction forecast for today. Even if you aren't doing construction, you're outdoors trying to get some plans done or just hanging out by the pool, keep the radar handy because there's going to be some showers and storms off and on later this morning getting into the afternoon. It's the lightning that always concerns me during the summertime. We get lots of lightning with these summer storms. And with us getting up to 50, if not up to 60% coverage, we're going to be ducking and dodging some pretty decent storms later this afternoon. Again, we're not saying it's going to be a complete washout today and even again tomorrow on Sunday. We're just saying we've got some pretty decent windows of opportunity, especially once we get later on to the lunchtime hours, especially by the afternoon. You got the heat of the day, you got the moisture. We're going to see some storms on the radar. So that's kind of what we're expecting today. Coverage not too bad right now. Gets a little bit better towards the lunchtime, and then we start to see it really jump up as we get into the afternoon. We're already seeing some of the Saharan dust coming in here, but since we have so much moisture, it's kind of that battle of the dust and the moisture, but we don't really see the heaviest amounts of this dust so far this Saharan dust season until really as we get into next week. So the most Saharan dust actually will be coming into our region, really into the United States as we get into this upcoming week. Lots of it right now sneaking into parts of the Gulf, but realistically, it's all in the Caribbean. This is also what's keeping the tropics pretty quiet. All of that Saharan dust, it dries out tropical development. Wind shear is very strong right now, especially in the Caribbean graveyard. So in other words, the next 7 to 10 days looks great. Thumbs up in the tropical department. Could be active over there in the Eastern Pacific, but none of that is an issue for us. It is quiet in the Gulf, the tropical Atlantic. Too much dry air and dust. Here we are looking at the Switch Electric Futurecast. We've been talking about that area of high pressure. Next 24 hours, this thing is really going to continue skirting off well towards north. All this does is just open the door for more flow coming out of the east. We've got onshore flow out of the south. Then you got some energy and more moisture coming out of the east. Pretty good recipe for just scattered to, if not numerous, showers and thunderstorms. Not all day, every single day till Wednesday, but pretty good rounds of showers and thunderstorms at least now and until as we get into Wednesday. And then notice as we start getting into Wednesday and mainly into Thursday, we finally start seeing area high pressure start building in from the east, getting back over our region, getting back into a more realistic summer pattern, maybe 10 to 20% coverage once we get into Thursday. But let's talk about right now. Lots of moisture building in over the Lone Star State and the Deep South. This just keeps us into a wet pattern this weekend, especially Monday and Tuesday, but notice as we get into Wednesday afternoon, especially on Thursday, that area high pressure builds in. Kind of lose a lot of that moisture. We'll be hot still, but we're losing a lot of that moisture, so we start drying out once we get into, realistically, Wednesday afternoon into Thursday. We just got to get through this weekend, especially Monday and Tuesday. Actually, tomorrow we'll have pretty decent coverage as well, too. We've got pretty busy forecast at least this weekend all the way until Tuesday evening. Can have another round in Wednesday morning, but it's Wednesday afternoon into Thursday and Friday we start getting back into our summer pattern that just 10 to 20% coverage for some limited showers and storms. Later today, we're going to see the storms kind of building in. Let me move out of the way because, again, coverage probably going to be a lot better towards Bay City, Lake Jackson, Angleton to Sugar Land. But you can see the moisture just continues to keep going further inland today, coming out of the Gulf. So we'll see that coverage get up to at least 50% sometime this afternoon. You'll see coverage probably going to be a lot better over there towards Houston. So again, some of these isolated storms can get heavy. If you're traveling to Houston, even towards Lake Jackson or down there towards the coast, remember some of these isolated storms can be heavy, have lots of lightning, some gusty winds up to 30 to 40 miles per hour. It's the locally heavy rainfall. You get 1 to 2 inches of rain in Houston, that can cause for a little bit of a nuisance. So that's the only thing we need to keep in mind. And then once we get into this evening and tonight, everything dies down. We lose the daytime heating. But let's look at for Sunday, because I don't think Sunday morning's going to be that active. It's not until we realistically get until around Sunday afternoon. I think this is going to be one of our more highest coverage days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. You can see as we get into the afternoon, look at the coverage of rain. I'll move out of the way once again. You've got from League City to Beaumont, Port Arthur, Sabine Pass, Lake Charles, all the way up to the Lakes region, rounds of showers and thunderstorms Sunday afternoon into the early evening time hours. So we're starting to get into a pretty active forecast. How much rain this weekend, if we're talking about the whole general region, I think this weekend about a half an inch to an inch seems pretty likely for the areas that do get rain. Majority of us. Isolated areas can get up to 2 to 3 inches, but we're not talking widespread 1 to 2 to 3 inches of rain until we get into Monday and Tuesday. And then notice by the time we start getting to Wednesday, between this weekend to Wednesday, realistically, again, Monday and Tuesday seems to be the heaviest days. Notice you can find some isolated areas that get even higher amounts than that. So widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain seems pretty common. By the time this is over with, by the time we get into Wednesday, with some isolated areas, possibly up to 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. This afternoon, we're going to get pretty hot and warm, but that's what we feel in July, low to mid 90s. Don't see any areas really getting into the upper 90s. Clouds and the rain kind of stopping that, but we'll see. Down there towards the coast, upper 80s to the near 90 mark. Again, at least 50% coverage, could get up to 60%. Parts of Houston into Beaumont, thanks to our sponsor of Seals before. Then overnight tonight, rain shouldn't be an issue. We lose all that when we lose the sun. We're still going to be warm, muggy, and sticky, middle to upper 70s with a good portion of the region, upper 70s to near 80. And here we are for our 5 to 7 day forecast. We've got to get through this stretch of rain today, tomorrow. I think our highest coverage is really going to be on Monday and Tuesday. That's when we really see widespread locally heavy rainfall as possible. Again, majority of the region can get 1 to 3 inches of rain by the time we get to Wednesday, with some isolated areas getting heavier amounts than that. And then by the time we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, get back to our more scheduled summer pattern. Limited rain, 10 to 20% coverage with temperatures back into the low to mid 90s. Same thing for Southwest Louisiana. Because of all the clouds and the rain, we're no longer seeing middle 90s and upper 90s, more so into the upper 80s to low 90s. Pretty active in the rain department today, tomorrow, all the way until Tuesday evening. Then we resume back to our normal July summer schedule as we get into Wednesday afternoon, and then we get pretty limited through the middle to end of the week for this upcoming week. Good time to go download our free Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app. Again, it's not going to be a complete washout today and really tomorrow. It's just we need to watch for rounds of showers and thunderstorms. So this app will keep you updated, let you know when the rain's moving into your region and then moving out. Boy, that sounded very country, region. But it lets you know when the storms are moving in and out of your area. If there is, let's just say, it's low shot at this, but let's say if there's a flood warning, this app will give you that warning 24/7. No matter where you are, it keeps you updated. So please go download the free Gulf Coast Weather Solutions app. Y'all have a wonderful Saturday. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for tuning in with us. We'll keep following you up to date with all the rain today on Facebook and YouTube, but especially on our app. So y'all have a wonderful Saturday. Thanks again for joining us. Stay cool and stay dry.
Gulf Coast Weather Solutions is sponsored by. Thank you for making Gulf Coast Weather Solutions one of your go-to sources for weather around the clock. From heavy downpours and severe storms to winter weather and the tropics, we've got you covered with accurate, reliable forecasts you can trust.
Next week is starting to look a little bit more stormy.
But look what's moving into the state of Texas.
Gulf Coast Weather Solutions.